On October 31st, 2008, an anonymous user under the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto sent a URL link to a cryptography mailing list. This link led to a document entitled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, which detailed a brand new internet currency, one that didn't rely on banks or institutions to process, but cryptography and computer power instead.
What? Are you kidding me?
In order to create this payment network, Satoshi used a blockchain, which would act as a sort of public list or ledger, updating consistently with each transaction. Users would remain completely anonymous behind a pseudonym of letters and numbers. The operation would run completely autonomous from any government or organization, and no personal information would ever be necessary to participate. Known today as the White Paper, this document would soon come to resemble a small step in a new revolution to decentralize the entire world. Later that month, another user on the cryptography mailing list named Hal Finney messaged Satoshi Nakamoto, expressing his interest in the project. Both Hal and Satoshi were former computer scientists and cryptographers, and after subsequent email exchanges, began to form a strong bond over the internet. Satoshi showed Hal his first Bitcoin wallet software, which would be used to send, receive, and hold Bitcoins. After downloading the wallet, Satoshi sent Hal the first transaction ever recorded on the blockchain, 10 Bitcoins, worth approximately a penny in total at the time. It was after this transaction that the two eventually decided to join forces to register Bitcoin.org and begin development as the core team of the cryptocurrency. On May 22, 2010, a man named Laszlo Haniec made the worst mistake of his entire life. In order to test out a real Bitcoin transaction, Laszlo ordered 2 large pizzas from Papa John's Pizzeria for roughly 10,000 Bitcoins. At the time, this was worth about $30 in total. But from that day, the price of Bitcoin has risen by nearly 98,000%. In other words, if Laszlo hadn't ordered those 2 pizzas, he would have $130 million in Bitcoin today, making this the most expensive pizza ever purchased in history. The event became so infamous in the cryptocurrency community that a holiday was created on May 22nd of each year to celebrate Bitcoin Pizza Day. Bitcoin wasn't actually the first decentralized digital currency. In 1998, a man by the name of Nick Szabo created BitGold. This technology functioned exactly the same as Bitcoin does today, even using a blockchain to store transactions, except for one small problem. Nick Szabo never figured out how to prevent outsiders from modifying the public ledger of transactions. This meant the currency was highly susceptible to anyone with malicious intentions or looking to steal from others. As a result, BitGold never made it mainstream, and its fundamental concept of decentralizing currency would remain dormant for another 10 years until the rise of Bitcoin. In December of 2010, the internet and crypto community experienced what is still referred to today as one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in the world. Bitcoin had recently begun to attract a much larger audience as WikiLeaks had announced their new donation system through Bitcoin. Various websites and blogs began drawing lots of unwanted attention towards the project, citing it as a hub for criminal activity and dark web users. Satoshi and the other developers began to worry that governments would attempt to shut down everything they had worked so hard to build. On December 11, 2010, Satoshi was having a conversation with a fellow developer on the Bitcoin forums about this situation when he wrote this forum post. It would be nice to get this attention in any other context. WikiLeaks has kicked the hornet's nest, and the swarm is headed towards us. At this exact moment, Satoshi Nakamoto seemingly disappeared from the internet without a trace. Both his Bitcoin wallet address and forum account have remained inactive for almost 10 years now, and even the core development team of Bitcoin have stated that they've never succeeded in contacting him since. In an effort to hunt down Satoshi Nakamoto's true identity, an investigative journalist named Leah Goodman wrote an article 4 years later titled Bitcoin's Face: The Mystery Man Behind the Cryptocurrency, which served as the cover of Newsweek magazine. In this, she wrote about a man she'd come into contact with named Dorian Nakamoto, whose career life as a computer scientist and engineer matched almost exactly with that of Satoshi's. Even more suspicious, Dorian Nakamoto lived 2 streets away from Hal Finney, one of Satoshi's closest friends. Dorian was immediately put under the spotlight, stating that he couldn't even go to the supermarket without being immediately bombarded by journalists. Instead of accepting this fame, Dorian Nakamoto actually refused these claims, and even shared that he had never heard of cryptocurrency.
The main reason I'm here is to clear my name that I have nothing to do with Bitcoin, nothing to do with developing. I was just an engineer doing something else.
Despite this, the internet remained so convinced that Dorian was Satoshi that even a quick Google search of Satoshi Nakamoto today brings up thousands of images of Dorian instead. Satoshi Nakamoto has still never been found and will likely remain a mystery forever. If you have a spare computer or graphics card lying around, chances are you're able to engage in a process called mining. Mining, or proof of work, was a system developed by Satoshi Nakamoto to allow users to devote part of their computer power to solve transactions on the blockchain. As a result, the miners get a little bit of profit, new bitcoins are introduced into the economy, and everyone gets a more secure transaction network. In the early days of Bitcoin, users could mine with their laptops, but the difficulty has risen much higher since then. Nowadays, miners use specialized hardware units called ASICs, designed specifically for solving cryptographic puzzles. These miners are usually restricted by electricity costs though. While miners in Europe and North America often have to pay a hefty fee for consuming so much power, many miners have relocated to remote locations in Mongolia, Iceland, and even Antarctica for extremely low prices. Others have begun to use solar, wind, or geothermal power sources to lower costs even further and become completely self-sustaining. This mining craze has become so popular that some historians even believe we are currently in a period of modern-day gold rush. Speaking of mining, it's estimated that before his disappearance, Satoshi Nakamoto mined over 1 million bitcoins. With a current price of $13,000 per Bitcoin, that would value Satoshi's net worth at almost $13 billion, making him one of the top 50 richest men on Earth. This also means, however, that if at any moment Satoshi sold all of his Bitcoin, the market flood and subsequent crash would likely be so intense that Bitcoin would never be able to recover again. In October of 2011, Bitcoin finally began to see major competition in the cryptocurrency market. Because Bitcoin is open source, any developer can change the underlying code as they see fit. In order to do this though, one must make a hard fork. You can think of this similar to a timeline that suddenly splits into 2 separate directions. Once one team is unsatisfied with the direction of a given cryptocurrency, they can simply fork the progress to a new timeline in order to personalize it to their liking, making an entirely new cryptocurrency. One computer scientist named Charlie Lee began to express concerns about the future of Bitcoin, claiming that the currency wasn't scalable, meaning the structure wasn't enough to support millions of people making transactions. In many ways, Charlie Lee was right, as today Bitcoin transactions can take anywhere between 1 to 3 hours to process. In an effort to preserve Satoshi's vision of a usable currency, Charlie Lee forked Bitcoin's code into Litecoin, which promised transaction speeds of less than 3 minutes. This promoted a whole new era of cryptocurrency, in which thousands of new coins like Ethereum, Ripple, Bitcoin Cash, and so many others began to flood the market. As of now, there are over 2,400 cryptocurrencies listed for sale. As many will remember though, with this massive flood of currencies came increasing speculation of the possibility of a crypto bubble. Known infamously as the Great Crypto Crash of December 2017, in a span of just 1 year, the price of Bitcoin lost nearly 80% of its value, crashing from $20,000 to just $3,000 per Bitcoin. Many people compared this to the dot-com bubble of 1994, where thousands of startup tech companies began rising rapidly in stock price only to plummet to near zero. The crypto crash was so severe that some people even took their own lives after losing everything. Users on Twitter and Reddit began spreading suicide hotline numbers in an effort to prevent further people from spiraling into a deep depression over their losses. It's sometimes very easy to forget that behind all of the numbers and price projections are real people putting their savings on the line for this currency. As we enter the turn of a new decade, Facebook has just unveiled their plans to dominate the global economy with their cryptocurrency, Libra. While this has provided a lot of legitimacy to Bitcoin and other cryptos, Facebook's Libra isn't actually a cryptocurrency. Unlike Bitcoin and other decentralized currencies, Libra's value will remain relatively stable, pegged to various low-risk currencies and assets like the US dollar, gold, and bonds. This means that when you buy Libra coins, you are actually placing your currency in many traditional stores of value. Fear has already begun to crop up regarding Libra's ability to track users' financial data and spending habits on an unprecedented scale. Users may soon begin to see personalized advertisements based on what they spend the most money on. The US government has even called for a temporary halt in development until further investigation is concluded. As a result, cryptocurrencies as a whole face a future of uncertainty, censorship, and yet remarkable promise. As we approach the very real possibility of becoming a surveillance society, it seems that cryptocurrencies may be one of the only real avenues of escape from total government control. Whether you value privacy, faster transactions, or complete control of your assets, it's safe to say that we've only just begun scratching the surface on what will be known as an era of financial revolution.